G'day cocktail lovers. You know, one of my favourite cocktails is the martini. I particularly like a dry martini that's 5 or 6 parts gin to 1 part dry vermouth. It's just really bracing when it's made with a good gin and a good vermouth and chilled down. It's just this bracing, clean thing. You can almost fool yourself that it's water, except it's going to get you quite drunk usually. I also understand, look, it's a bit full on. If you're not already deeply into cocktail world, particularly gin cocktails, a dry gin martini is a bit in your face until you get used to it. I'm not surprised that people are put off by it and they think like, that's not for me. But what I've found interesting, there are a lot of recipes out there I've found, and it almost seems like this is trying to get someone used to the idea of a martini. It's not a martini, it's got the key elements and usually a few other things. I don't know if the inventors of these were deliberately trying to ease people into martinis, but I think they can do it a lot of times, and I think this recipe I've come across is one that could be that very thing, a gateway to the wonderful world of martinis. For reasons unknown to me, this cocktail is called the Argentina, and it does have the base of dry gin and dry vermouth, although it's 50-50, which is sometimes called a sopping wet martini, sometimes just a 50-50. If you're unfamiliar with martini terminology, when people talk about dry and wet, what they mean is the ratio of gin to vermouth. If it's just a little bit of vermouth and mostly gin, that's dry. The more vermouth you add, the wetter we say the martini is. So it doesn't get much wetter than 50-50, although some people do actually do a reverse measure and will do 2 parts vermouth to 1 part gin. That's interesting. But the Argentina doesn't stop there. It invites along a couple of friends, and when I saw that I thought, this is going to make it interesting. I think this is probably going to taste good on its own, but as I said, I'm quite keen that this could be a way to ease people into martinis. So I'm going to make it. Besides the gin and vermouth, it brings in orange liqueur and Benedictine. 2 elements I quite like, so I'm very interested to see how they play with the gin and vermouth. The gin will be an Australian dry gin from Brogan's Way, a local distillery, and this is actually a dry vermouth that I barrel aged because I was in that type of mood. It's actually cheating a little bit to use this because it's not just dry vermouth. I quite like how this turned out, so I'll be using that in this cocktail. Here's how we make the Argentina cocktail. In our mixing glass, we put 1 ounce or 30 mils of dry gin. Follow that with 1 ounce or 30 mils of dry vermouth. Then we're adding 1/4 ounce, about 7.5 mils of an orange liqueur, and the same amount, 1/4 ounce, 7.5 mils of DOM Benedictine. Then we're adding 1 dash of orange bitters and 1 dash of Angostura bitters. We add ice to the glass, stir it for 20 to 25 seconds so it's nice and cold and we get some dilution in there, and then I'm going to strain that into a Nick and Nora glass. And there we have the Argentina. Let me taste it for you. Oh, I'm a fan. I'm an instant fan of this. It also gives me ideas for a few variations as well. Yeah, I think this is matching exactly what I said. It's a nice cocktail on its own. It stands on its own. But really as the gateway, sneaking people towards a martini, which I think is a noble quest. Not pushing people to drink alcohol who don't like alcohol, but people who like a drink every now and then, but they think, oh, martini, that's a bit much. Because a martini can be a bit much, but we could ease them towards with a drink like this, or just enjoy it on its own, which it deserves. The Argentina. I hope you try it, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope if you ever try this experiment of easing someone in who thinks they don't like gin or don't like martinis, give them something like this. Let me know if it works, and I do hope to see you again soon, but until such time, I will say cheers.